listening to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. Get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today? Do this stuff.
All right, welcome to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Josh.
And we're excited today. We've got Big Jerry.
Big Jerry started small.
He started small. He was fantastic to interview. I had a lot of fun talking to him.
Yeah, me too. He's a great big guy and a big teddy bear, isn't he?
Yeah, I think, definitely a lot. He's a huge guy.
Well, it makes sense. He was a respected police officer and good relationship with the police department. And now he builds fences and is taking over the world, it sounds like.
A great story on how to just start small, start with what you know, keep at what you know, and just grow consistently over time. And now he's got Big Jerry's fencing.
And his mind. He evolves his mind, doesn't he? He really talks about the way he thinks about things and sees things. And now he manages people instead of building the fences. And that's an interesting journey.
Yeah, very cool. Well, let's get into this interview. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea.
All right, here we go.
Do you like this podcast? Get updates and a look behind the scenes by following them on Instagram at GWDS Podcast and like the Facebook page.
I like what Jerry's bringing to the table. It's like a deeper voice than mine.
Yeah, the real voice.
3 shades of...
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're just going to jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast, where we will like you to... I want to start again. Hey, welcome everybody. I always do that. We're going to leave all this in, I feel like. So we should just show all the mistakes.
Yeah, suffering is good.
All right. Well, welcome to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast, where we help you get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question,
what are you doing today?
I'm Joe. This is Josh. And today on the podcast, we have Big Jerry.
That's me.
Welcome, Big Jerry.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to have you. First of all, I think the obvious first question is getting a little bit into... I want to know where the name Big Jerry came from.
Yeah, me too. I want to know that.
Because I know for me, like, I grew up the runt. I didn't grow into these ears until about 5 minutes ago, but they were this size when I was 8. And I was so small comparatively to everybody else in elementary school. And my best buddy, whose name was Dave, he was the state champion wrestler. Like, he had a 6-pack when he was 6 years old. And he had to spend a lot of time like protecting me and watching out for me and help toughen me up. And but I was just tiny. And so I know my perspective of being the runt. Were you always this big?
Yeah, I mean, what's big? I mean,
well, you're bigger than me, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean,
how tall are you?
6'9".
Okay, so that's pretty big.
6'9", 355. I guess mainly it started probably about 18 years ago when I was a bouncer at a nightclub in Raleigh.
Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And we...
I think you threw me out once.
That's
man.
Let me go and tell you, I went to another club one night when I was a bouncer, and these group of guys were in the bathroom when I was in there, and they just kept staring at me like... gosh, what's going on? It was like, I'm not that way, guys. I mean, no offense. I'm just not that way. And then one was just straight confronted me, said, "Hey, that's Big Jerry, man. He's the one who threw you out of Long Branch the other night." He goes, "Oh yeah, dude, I've never been," dude, they were laughing at the guy. He was like, "Dude, they ain't never seen nobody manhandle somebody like that before." And to be honest with you, kind of Big Jerry went with that. So it kind of started a men's bathroom, maybe. I don't know how well that sounds.
That's
exactly.
Perfect. That's the episode title. Big Jerry. It all started in a men's room.
Yes.
Knew it. Great.
Yeah.
So were you like even younger, like elementary, middle school? Did you have a late?
So I was one thing I always remember. I was 5'6" in 6th grade, and then in 8th grade I was 6'3", and then my freshman year I was pretty much the height I am now, 6'9".
Oh,
so
wow.
that's kind of where everything went, and that's about the extent of all I remember of the height.
Did you do sports and all that? It seems like that would have been mandatory.
Yeah,
you look like a guy who does sports.
Oh yes, if I had $1, right, for every time I was asked that. Now, I did play football and basketball. Actually, my freshman year at Southern Durham, I was recruited by Mount Zion to go play basketball at Mount Zion, where is Tracy McGrady went. And I went there for a little bit, but just didn't feel it was the best fit for me. Just religious beliefs were different and stuff like that. So I ended up wanting to leave. And then private school that I went to, actually where Liberty in Durham, actually where Mike Lee went to church at when he was younger.
Oh, really?
That's where I went to private school. And they offered me, said some people are willing to pay for your scholarship, because we didn't have a lot of money or anything like that. People are willing to pay for you to come. And obviously there was a hidden agenda. I mean, as far as me wanting to play they wanted me to play basketball for them and stuff. So they got a championship out of it. I don't know if they really got their money's worth. I wasn't really the best kid, but no, I always had a good heart. And, I've been told many times that big teddy bear, gentle giant guy. And I mean, that's me. I mean, I don't really ever want to throw my weight around on anything, but it always helps being bigger, I guess, at some point of things.
Yeah. Do you ever like see another large man and just you kind of share that like fraternity? Like, yeah, I know what you're going through, man.
Well, I'll tell you what is really weird is even when you see another big guy like that and they still come to you and ask you how tall you are. I remember seeing Serge Zwicker one time.
Is it a competition thing? Like, how tall are you?
I don't know.
Back to back.
The guy, Serge Zwicker, I think was like 7'2". I mean, he played at Carolina. He was like 7'2", so significantly taller. But he straight asked me how tall I was, and he
probably just needed to know you were shorter.
He had me by 5 inches. That was interesting. But then we started talking about, hey, where do we buy clothes at and stuff like that. That's where the whole conversation went. I mean, and then I had to tell him I'm a Duke fan, so kind of some conversation kind of ended from there. But that was about the extent of it. So
yeah. Well, one of the things I was excited to talk to you on the podcast about is you're the owner of Big Jerry Fencing.
That's correct. Yes.
And so I just kind of want to hear how you got into that. So you've been in the Triangle now for you guys' main office is in Holly Springs.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been open?
11 years.
11 years of fences in the Triangle.
Yes.
You guys did my fence. I like my fence. I got your Big Jerry sign right on it.
Nice.
So I know of what I speak here. They do a good job.
I appreciate that.
But I'm curious how you got into making fences.
Yeah, that's a story. I'll try and sum it up as quickly as possible, but I never do sum it up as quickly as possible. But so I was actually a cop. Actually, I met my wife at Long Branch. She was a waitress. I was a bouncer there at Long Branch.
Okay.
She was in school to be a nurse. She was in nursing school. And I was like, well, I really like this girl. If there's something I need to do, I need to kind of get my stuff straight and figure out what I'm going to do for a living now. I was playing arena football when me and her met, but I knew that wasn't, and then I ended up getting cut from the team. And so I knew that wasn't going to be a long-term thing. So, talked about a couple things and decided to go and be a cop. So I became a cop, went to the academy, and became a cop, in Morrisville, was there for about 5 years.
Was that when there was like nothing in Morrisville?
That's pretty much right. Yeah, there was still, it was growing, but there definitely was not what there is now. I think towards the end of my stint, they were growing they were building the Walmart that was bordered Morrisville and Durham there. And then anyways, while I was a police officer, we were interested in building a new house, in Fuquay. We lived in Holly Springs, but we were looking to build in Fuquay.
Which is what everybody in the Triangle does when they're looking to build a new house.
Yes, exactly.
Look at Fuquay.
Looked at Fuquay, yes.
Which is like a great name for a town. Anytime you can sound like you're using two cuss words when you're talking about where you live.
What's the second one?
I feel like.
Oh, the second part of Fuquay Arena.
And yes.
Yes.
We'll let people figure it out.
That.
Because it'll probably be worse than what I'm thinking. Whatever they come up with.
You might not want to Google that.
Definitely do not. So, this is the interesting part of the story. So we had our house on the market. We were building a house. We had already signed the paperwork and everything.
You guys had the house in Morrisville?
No, we were in Holly Springs.
Okay.
Actually, the same house we're in today.
Okay.
Still. But we were building in Fuquay and, went to the site every day and I fell in love with the house. It was really cool, really exciting for us. And by that point, we were going and put our house on the market. And people were like, well, we like your house, but we're looking for a fenced in yard. So I went and I got called some other fence companies about, hey, quotes for the property or for building a fence in my yard and stuff. And I ended up, said, you know what, I like tools and stuff. So I said, I could buy some tools and buy a new cool nail gun and I could build my own fence. You know? So that's actually what happened. I ended up building my own fence. And
I love doing that. You're like, at the end of this, I also own tools.
Yes, no, I mean, seriously, I mean, not only do I have extra money in my pocket, but I have tools. I mean, I got a nail gun.
It's very appealing. feeling.
Yeah. What else can I do now with a nail gun? I mean,
every project I start by thinking, how could I do this? And what tools could I own? And I did that with the fence too. And I looked at augers. I looked at purchasing them and I was like, but I would never use it. And then I have to store it for like the next 5 years.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I was just like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, I was just a cop. I was content. I was, I was happy with my career actually. Because it was actually a career. I knew in 30 years I'd be able to retire, whatever from starting or whatever. And we, long story short, at that point, the subprime lending hit, and we ended up not being able to sell our house. And I remember our house that we were building was almost finished, and I actually went back out there. I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And I actually sat there and I actually cried. I was like, God, I remember right now vividly. I remember I was sitting in my car, my truck, and I was like, why would you allow this to happen? Well, I mean, why would you have me come out here every single day? Why would I fall in love with this house? And do this. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But Lord works in mysterious ways. And, I wasn't mad or anything. I was just more, didn't understand why.
Yeah.
It was very confusing for me and I was hurt. And, I don't remember the exact time frame, but after we got done building our fence, I remember, my neighbor 2 houses down said, "Hey, can you build our fence also?" And I looked at him, I said, "Well, I really don't know what I'm doing." They're like, "No, it looks good. Just do the same thing you did." And I'm like, all right. So I built their fence, and then the word got around the street, I guess, in Morrisville, because it was smaller, that Officer Davis is building fences on the side.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was building fences on the side. Like I was off every other weekend. I was renting an auger. Like I realized my little auger was no longer going to work for what I was doing. So I was going to Hertz rental equipment in Apex and was renting equipment for building fences and stuff like that. And next thing you know, I had to hire a crew, a subcontracting crew to help out, or hire my own crew to go and build fences. And I remember them coming to my office one day while I was working as a cop, and I wrote them a check for like $900 to build this fence. And I was like, and I still made money on the job, obviously, or whatever, but I'm just like, and it was a big project too. And I just remember I was like, dude, I could do that myself and I wouldn't have to work. I think you could do that in 3 days or whatever, you know? And at that point I was like, you know what? I was very fortunate. I said, you know what?
So did you not have to help with that fence? Like you just got to pay the crew and they went and did the fence?
That was the first job I did. And that I let them do the whole thing.
Light bulb goes off.
It's kind of, well, it was something that happened there. And then I remember, I thought that was very interesting. Then I remember landing this like $18,000 job in Lillington, a farm fence. And I think it was like 3,000 or 2,500 feet of fence or something like that for this farm fence. And I was just like, talked to my wife, Evelina, at the time. And I said, you know what?
Evelina's still your wife. You just phrased it in a way.
I love when that happens. I love when that happens.
I thought I'd clear that up in case she's listening. My wife, Evelina, at the time.
At the time,
that comma's important and you can't see it in the podcast.
Pause. Yes, Evelina is still my wife. We were fortunate enough with her being a nurse that even if work was slow or something like that, she was able to pick up extra shifts, which she ended up doing a lot of. Because right when I quit was right at the I built the fence, and I was like, it was right in November, so things start getting slow around Christmas time, and then they pick right back up. And I remember calling back the police department and say, "So how are things going over there?" And I did. And I was like, and he said, "Well, Jerry, we're okay right now, but I'll definitely let you know." And then I was like, all right, well, now the spring kicks in, and and we started getting a little busier again. I remember the chief called me up. He said, "Jerry, how are things going?" And I'm like, "They're going pretty good." Now he wanted me to come back, and I was like, "Oh wow!" So, but I didn't. Evelina, who wasn't a believer at the time either, she said, "No, just this is the right thing to do," and everything. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then little did you know that if I would have stayed in that house, if I would have bought that house, you wouldn't have Big Jerry's Fencing. Because I would still be a cop today. I'd be working in Morrisville more than likely. I mean,
eating at H Mart.
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
It's in Morrisville, right?
H Mart.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Is that the gas station with the fried lizards?
No, it's in
gizzards.
It's like luxury Asian grocery store.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's another story. I'll tell you, we can go on later on that one. But yeah, so it's
So what was the early time like? Was it, because I'm fighting this right now, so I'm just restarting my company up, and there's the side of me that is probably a lot like you were describing, like wanting to pick up the phone and be like, so how's stuff going when you have a lean month? Because it can be famine or feast when you're starting a new company.
Correct.
What did you learn having come through that you would maybe pass on to people in similar situations?
I think if you ask me now, I think that I wish I would have had more faith.
Faith in what?
God, that I'm doing what God has this under control. He already knows how this is going to end, begin, whatever. I'm not alone on this. That's today. That would be my advice to anybody starting their own business right now, is just know that if you're a believer, you stay true to the faith. It may work. It may not work. It doesn't mean it's not God's will for you, whatever you're going through. And I think now
that's an important point. And I think a lot of people, and I think I'm struggling with this too, because I'm trying to put myself in the position of like, am I going to be okay if my business fails?
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be happy if it succeeds.
Definitely.
But am I going to be okay if it fails? And the correct answer, right, for a person who subscribes to a biblical faith would be like, irregardless of your situation, your faith remains solid and
That's exactly correct.
But it can be tough in the moment. Did you have some really tough moments?
Oh, there's numerous. I mean, there's times where I'm like, how am I covering payroll?
Did you jump right into like the whole owning the business thing pretty fast, or did you slow grow, or did you just look around and all of a sudden you had crews and people and everything?
It was one day I just looking around. I never thought Big Jerry's was going to get like this.
Yeah.
Never.
How many people on the podcast have said that about their thing?
But
never thought it would turn into this.
A lot
is the truth. I mean, I my whole intent was building 1 or 2 fences a month and breaking even with daycare. I mean, and I'm like, I could build 2 fences a month and I'd make just as much money as I'm making being a cop. And I'd be able to stay home with the kids, save money in daycare. And that's it. And then I'll never forget the first phone call I had on my cell phone. I was, somebody had given my number to somebody in SAS. And I went and I was out there doing an estimate for them at their house. And then my phone rang. It was a flip phone, one of those flip cellular phones. And I was like, hello, Big Jerry's Fencing. And they went and they said, yeah, I need an estimate for a fence or whatever. I said, okay, no, it's cool. I was trying to act all cool about it. Where like, I was inside, I was like, oh, that's so cool. My phone rang. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So that was really cool. And, it's just, when is the right time? I still have these questions. When is the right time to hire somebody? Yeah. We are constantly growing and growing. And, you stay true to, I think the honest answer is, you stay true to God, and I think everything will be okay. I know it'll be okay. I think I find faith. I find peace, I guess is what I should say, in my faith, by knowing that regardless if this business closed down tomorrow, God already knew that was going to happen. Yeah. And I really think that I can't say that I'm being reckless with anything. If I was being reckless and whatever, God's taken what he's given me away, and I screwed up. But I think I'm staying true to what God wants me to be and what I'm supposed to be doing with the business. And I find peace no matter what happens. If he closed down doors tomorrow, I know he's got this because he already knew it was going to happen. Yeah. And that's really what I find faith in. And that's why I find, peace in.
Yeah. I've been talking a lot. You got any questions?
I'm an active listener right now. This is good.
Do you think that there is I want to get to the question of like why you do what you do, but I'm curious, do you think there's a thread that's been kind of going through your life? You're a large man. Mm-hmm. You got into a profession that was to serve and protect. Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking at your t-shirt that says Big Jerry Fencing, where it says add protection and privacy to your home.
Yes. With a guy who doesn't look anything like me. He's a lot more built.
He's got, I like to see a cartoon of that guy just slamming fence posts.
That'd be awesome.
But why do you think you're wired in a way? Protection seems to be a theme in your life.
Your why?
Where did that come from?
It's like a deep.
I haven't really thought about it like that. I think that my wife, she said she has always felt safe with me. And I think that's, and then I didn't realize, I was like, okay, just because I'm big or whatever, but feel safe no matter what happens. Provide that security for her and also our family, our 3 kids, that it's not just physical safety, it's spiritual safety. Hey, I know that he's going to lead us in the right direction of things, which that's a lot of stress right there. Because I really don't know the best way of answering that question other than I just always want to do what's right. I'm never going to let the little guy get picked on, and I'm always going to try and do what, and not that I'm going to intervene by saying, whoa, get off him. I'm going, well, let's talk about this situation. I always want to analyze the situation and say, hey, what's the best way of approaching this? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's.
Was that even when you were young? Did you?
No, not at all. No. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I think that a lot of that is being learned from the business. Yeah. I'm constantly doing my devotions are about entrepreneurship and leadership and taking David Ramsey's classes and his leadership book, ebook. I don't read, I listen, but
it counts.
Exactly.
I count it.
Thank you. I count it. Yeah, because if it doesn't have pictures, it's not going to happen. So, I think one of the other things that I'm a cancer survivor. I had testicular cancer 12 years ago. I had testicular cancer 12 years ago. And I found out from, it was very weird how I found out, but I just had pain and I went to the doctor. I remember him spending like 20 minutes telling me why it would be anything other than cancer and stuff like that. He's like, sometimes they get twisted or something and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And then he tells me to drop my drawers and he says, Gerald, this concerns me. Like he didn't call me Jerry anymore. He said, Gerald, this concerns me.
It's like when your mom uses your real name.
Yeah, we got a problem there. Yeah. So, but I'll never forget how strong my wife was during that whole ordeal. I was very fortunate. Didn't have to go to the chemo or anything like that. It was an removal, amputation, whatever you call it.
Oh yeah, just take it off.
Yeah, it's gone. And I didn't second guess it at all. I was like, yeah, just kill it. I don't need it. I mean, I've got a healthy child already. And stuff like that. But I think I saw how strong my wife was, Evelina was during that time. And I think that inspired me. And I was like, so she was in a way protecting me because, and our family at the same time. And I knew that was awesome. And then I know I'm kind of rambling, but I think the protection thing comes from, I want everybody to feel as safe as possible. I remember going out and doing estimates for people, go out and talking to them. And I'm like, this is what you can get. And I would use my past experience of being a police officer. Like, look, if you're looking for privacy, then a aluminum fence is not not what you're wanting. What is it you want protection for? And they'd say, well, I want the aluminum fence with the points sticking up top. So if they try to hop the fence, it hurts them or impales them. We're like, well, they could really just bend it if they wanted to or something, so I was always trying to give them the best bang for the buck. I was always trying to be honest with the customers about telling them, hey, this is what I think you should do. Or if they ask for my opinion, I'd always ask, why do they want to go a certain way? And I think that's one of the things that's resonated with how we are now is I've taken that and look, customers will come to us and like, they want this style fence. Well, why do you want that fence?
Yeah.
Well, I think it looks cool. Okay. Well, that's good. What is the purpose of the fence? It's for privacy. Well, then we know we can eliminate aluminum fence. And if that's, because that's obviously not an option. Well, we really don't just, we try to educate a customer as much as possible at the same time.
Yeah.
Off of our experiences.
Yeah. Sounds like listening is a big part of that. You want to see what their objectives are.
That's something I've always struggled with is listening.
Yeah.
It is. But I think marriage has definitely helped out with that. You need to just be, how many times does Mike Lee just shut up and listen sometimes?
I don't think that my wife would put listening in the strength category for Joe either.
We ought to start a club, guys.
Yeah, where we just all talk simultaneously. We just all talk.
All right, see ya.
We get it out, and then we get it all out of our system.
That's what we do now, right?
We got nothing but listen and left. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you constantly are just shut up and listen. It's common sense. There's no need to analyze it. I mean, it's so easy yet hard to do.
What's that saying? We have 2 ears because
1 mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. So we listen twice as much as we speak. Yeah. Some people might not have heard that, guys. Come on now.
I did not hear that.
Really?
Yeah.
You never heard that?
I don't think so. Again, maybe I was sick that day when they talked about it in school.
So I'm curious now what this phase of business looks like for you, because now you're exploring. So you've built a base, you've got a solid book of business, you've been in the area for a long time, and now you're looking at franchises.
Correct.
What have you been learning about that process that you could pass on to people?
Franchises.
Yeah.
And why are you getting into franchises?
McDonald's?
Yeah, right. I'll be the first thing is I'll tell you, and this is honest God truth, why I'm getting into franchising is because I want to allow people to have the same opportunity I had, that God's given me. And that's the honest God truth. I was like, I was meeting with the attorney a couple weeks ago, and they're like, well, you should need to be charging this X amount of dollars to start to these potential franchisees. And I'm like, that's more than I want them to be successful. Yeah. And, I don't want them having to go broke to try and she's doing her job and other people, other advisors I have are doing their job also, but you have to protect yourself also. You have to make sure they have the capital to be able to, do everything to back the business and stuff. Yeah. But I really just want people to be able to be blessed by what God's given me, learn from my mistakes. I mean, that's really where it came from. And I didn't really ever have everything has grown, Joe. I never thought about I was going to get this big. I never thought we were going to have 5 locations or whatever, that we have right now. And we're getting ready to pursue couple more over the next year. I never thought about that. It was just, hey, I just want to build fences. I want to make a living and stay home, or whatever. Yeah. And how things have evolved where we have a great crew who works for us now. Great leaders, great people, good Christians. And I think one of my former employees has been with me for 7 years, now owns a Big Jerry's. Yeah, which is really cool. My brother in Jacksonville, Florida, he had been in the corporate world for 15 years. He was a manager of a FedEx Kinko's. And he said, Jerry, I'm just getting tired of this. And I said, dude, if you want to do it, you can take my name and just roll with it down in Jacksonville, Florida. And after a while, he thought about it and he finally said, he did it. He's and that's kind of where I saw his success. And I made sure he's learned from all of my mistakes, and I go to him all the time about learning things about the corporate world. Like, hey, how should I handle the situation I have with this employee right now, or this customer, what have you? And he is great source of advice. John Davis, 904-476-2528. John at BigJerrySpencer.com. No, I think God put him in my life with this, God put Big Jerry's in his life for me also to help me learn and to know that, hey, this is a model that can work and does work. And then now we're franchising. I mean, I never thought of that before, but I was like, if it works for him, why can't it work in a totally different market? Why can't it work for somebody else also? Mm-hmm. And it's a good model. It's a good business model we have. We are just utilizing, finding ways of constantly providing faster and quicker information to our customers without jeopardizing quality or customer service. Yeah. And I really think communication is huge for us. We constantly are trying to find ways of improving using modern day technology, new software and stuff that you suggested.
There's a Google review for Big Jerry's, and somebody was talking about how cool it was that they were frustrated first that I guess one of the normal processes of getting a quote for a fence is a human has to come to your house and they have to walk your fence line, et cetera, et cetera. But this Google review was saying that on Jerry's site, you can type in your address and draw your fence on Google Maps. Yeah. And then you guys can give them like a real quote fast and online. Exactly. And cut out that middle step for people. which I think is what you're talking about. With
that's exactly correct. You know, and if they give us their survey or something like that, we're able to provide them with everything they need for their HOA approval process as well. Mm-hmm. You know, I've
gotten 3 letters from my HOA since I moved in here. I never had an HOA before.
Well, what were the letters about?
One, I built that giant pergola in the back and I didn't ask permission. So they sent me that. Should this get me in trouble? That's right. They're not listening. Yeah. 2, I had a dead bush in my front yard. Oh my And they were like, can you please remove this dead bush? And I wanted to write back and be like, can you do something about the 2 vacant houses on my cul-de-sac? And I'll remove my dead bush.
Yeah. I'd have burned that bush.
But I didn't. And then the 3rd one was just recently one of my trees is growing all wobbly, and they were just giving me the letter of notice, like, hey, if this falls, it's your fault.
Oh, wow.
But one of my trees in the back is dangling over the townhomes, trying to reach the sun. Yeah.
I think, you know, I always try and think of innovative ways of spinning things. Let's just go this way. I said, hey, maybe look at people. It's the go green way of doing this. You know, we're not burning gas. They're wasting time coming out to your house. We're still able to provide accurate information for you. And, just as accurate as what you're getting from your other quotes. I mean, it really works. It's a good process that works for us, and we're very fortunate.
Yeah. So before you were talking about the goals that you had for your company were about, they were simpler and noble goals of just like, I can do this and stay home with my kids if I do a couple fences. So what did they change to now? Because now you're past that.
Yeah, your goals.
Yeah, I wish I was back there sometimes. I was just like,
I've often wondered about because I have this theory that I'm working on, like when were the golden age? Like when was the golden age? That when because I imagine that I don't think life is better or worse. I think it's seasonal. That's just my personal opinion. But I do think that we have favorite points in our life where it's like when we look back on them, like that was the time. And I often wonder, like, are we missing it because we don't know it's the golden age? And I feel like I'm constantly like a little neurotic. Like, am I in the golden age right now? And I don't know. Nobody told me and I'm not taking the time to enjoy it. Yeah.
I had to.
That's a great one.
You know, I think that, Joe, I think for any entrepreneur, it's really I never really had the goal. My goals were very, very low. It was do 2 jobs a month, break even, and stay home. I mean, that's really where it was.
Well, it probably wouldn't have worked if your goal was like, I'm going to be a fence mogul and I'm going to do $4 million this year.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's, you're exactly correct. I think I think if I look back, I am very, very happy with what I have right now. It's stressful. We now have 13 Home Depot stores that we are the service provider for. They're asking us if we're willing to take on a few more in the Virginia market. It's huge. I mean, in fact, I had to sell the way we do things to Home Depot. They were like, no, you need to be face to face with the customers and stuff like that. So if you just give me the opportunity. And now
they wanted you to do it their way.
Oh yeah. But we're very fortunate. We have a good contact there who actually reached out to me, Ron Bradshaw, and he's been awesome to work with. And he talks to us. Hey, if we got issues and we need to keep stuff in check, he calls me and lets me know. But he kind of took a stand for, said, look, let's let Big Jerry try it his way. It seems to be very successful for him. Let's see if it can work for us. And so it does. And so 2 years later, they're very pleased with the numbers and they want us to take on more market and stuff. So it's a proven market. It's working.
It's very cool.
Where do you get your wood?
Yeah.
Your question was a double entendre, and you said it like, where do you get your wood?
Yes, all of our lumber is from Home Depot.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you ever have, like, if some farmer calls you and says, hey, we have these like giant oak trees falling, are you able to process those, or is it like out of your realm?
No, not at all. It's one of these things.
You don't own a lumber mill, Jerry?
No, not today. I don't.
I would love to own a lumber mill.
I know you would, Joe.
I would own me a lumber mill so fast.
I got some wood in mind for you, Joe. know right now.
Oh gosh! Oh, this guy's gonna make another desk.
He broke. Joe broke. Joe broke. Joe broke.
Okay.
I think I think one of the other to kind of go off of that, people stay with what you know, what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I was actually just listening to another ebook about franchising and stuff like that. And this guy who was in marketing was doing everything. He was making pamphlets for banks, and he was doing website development, and he was broadening everything.
Take whatever work comes in.
That's exactly correct. Yeah. And to the point where when he actually went and talked to somebody, he said, well, what are your strengths? He's like, our strengths are logos. Well, that's what you need to concentrate on. Let's talk about logos. And he was able to sell his business. He became very happy. He was happy doing what he was doing then at that point. So where that goes is, do you stain fences? No, it's not our, first of all, we stay busy enough with fences. We don't, I couldn't take on the extra work anyways, but yeah, we could make more money, but that's not what it's about. I'd rather stay good at what we know, what we can do, and stay comfortable at it.
How about people get off their arse and go stain their own fence? That'd be a good thing, wouldn't it?
Have you seen my fence?
I mean, staining a fence is fun.
I did though buy the paint gun that I bought it in an attempt knowing that I was going to stain this fence with it, because we had an addition go on our other house, and the crew that showed up had this sweet paint gun, and I took a picture of it, and then I went and bought that paint gun, and I was so stoked, and I used it to paint the trim upstairs and everything. Yeah. But I totally bought it thinking like, I'm going to have to stain that fence at some point, so I gotta buy the really nice paint sprayer,
right?
Because it's going to save me money, in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I was like, we did it before we stained a fence. We got this big contract. We stained all these little 8-foot section fences for townhomes that are in between the dividers for townhomes. Oh my goodness, it was the first and last stain job I ever did. And people were complaining that stain was blowing up on their walls of their house and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I need to stick the money. If everything went well, would have been good, but it was definitely not worth the headache and stuff. And plus, it gives you a bad name. If you're not, if you want someone who's able to do web design and handle all your marketing or whatever, go to this guy. But if you want someone who's able to kick butt and nail your website, go to Joe Woolworth. I mean, that's what you want. You want that ace in the hole. Who's the best at doing something for me? Yeah. It's not, this guy will do everything for me. It's that's what you want to be known for, I would think, more or less. Yeah. Stick to what you're good at.
I'm curious, have you found, so now that you're scaling up, like you're passionate about what you do and how you do it, which I think is why, I mean, that's what you need to get into a franchise, right? Franchises, nail it and scale it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've got a process. This is good. Then have you been finding that your struggle now for the phase that you're at is like company culture? Like that when you send people out as ambassadors for Good Jerry, that they do the work the way that you would want it done and how you would want it done? Yeah.
So the crews that have been with us have been for years. They came from other fence companies. A lot of them come from other fence companies. Actually, no, all of them had, there's 7 crews that we have. They've all come from different fence companies, but one, they like the way we treat our employees. But I'm very open to them. We have meetings. Hey guys, this is we talk about positive reviews we got on Google or whatever from customers, or we talk about negative reviews we might have gotten from something. Yeah. And where can we strive to improve? And it's not just the building the fence aspect. It's also in-house, our communication. We have weekly meetings. We have one today. Weekly meetings, office meetings. What are we doing to improving? What can we learn from what review just came in, or what issues did we just have? We are always learning. And so we talk about building fences. Do you jeopardize, quality or whatever just to get fences done? No, we don't. We really take time. We spend time, teaching our installers the way we want them done. That way we don't have to worry about going back out for issues or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we're learning, as we, broaden the market is one of the I think of an issue that happened in Tampa with one of our locations in Tampa. Not a big deal, but they attached to the footers apparently in Florida stick out a whole lot more. So it's hard to get a post of a fence right next to the house to close off that gap. So the installer went and they attached to the house, which chipped a bunch of stucco off the house or something over there. So it exactly. And, but we have our operator down there. He's awesome. Robert's doing a great job down there. He's, gets frustrated, but hey, we take it and we don't just fire somebody because of something like that. We teach them, hey, if you did this, well, the other thing was they didn't tell us that it happened. So we heard from the customer. So what can we do to improve this situation from occurring again? Rather than blowing up and get mad or whatever. Say if this happens, let us know.
I remember I was reading in a book, and I think it was a story about Peter Drucker, but he was telling a story, or maybe it was him. But anyways, the gist of it was an employee made a mistake that ended up costing the company something like $60,000. Not like a belligerent mistake, which is not what most employees end up doing, right? They end up making what we would put in the category of an honest mistake. Like, I thought that would work out. It didn't. Kind of mistake. And the guy came into the office with his head hung low, and he's like, so I guess I'm getting fired. And he's like, why in the heck would I fire you? I just invested $60,000 in your education.
Exactly. It's exactly, I'll tell you a quick story real quick. We just bought another fence company 2 years ago, and that was in Holly Springs Backyard Depot. Mark Campbell, great guy. Our kids were the same age, going to preschool and stuff together. So we always saw each other, always. Hey, how you doing, Mark? How you doing, Jerry? Good. It just came to the point where it was a good point in his life where I contacted him and I said, hey, I could really use some extra help. I was tired of hiring people and teaching them things. I need someone who was an expert. He's been in the business longer than I have. Yeah. And long story short, he now works. He's the operations manager, does a great job. And we have we have great communication. We have a great relationship together. But his second weekend, he screwed up he ordered $6,000 worth of material for the wrong job, or it was the wrong material for a job. And it was like a 3-foot fence. So we were never going to sell that again. Never. He's like, Jerry, I'll pay for that if I need it. I was like, no, you work for me now. You don't own your own company anymore. I said, we just need to find a way to get rid of it. And fortunate a job came up within a month. I mean, it never would come up. We were able to sell it and stuff like that. But
that was lucky.
Yeah, definitely. But it's just like, so you learn from these mistakes, right? And that's exactly correct. You just invested $60,000 in their education. That's exactly how you have to look at it. You cannot get mad at every simple thing. It's always, guys, what can we learn from this guy left a bad review. We messed up. We screwed up here. Yeah. What can we do to learn? And if you have that mentality as a business owner, not necessarily an entrepreneur, but I was thinking of a franchise or whatever. As a business owner, you have that type of mentality, learn from it. It'll be okay. Yeah. That's the most important thing.
It's challenging when you get rough feedback. There's almost always, I guess, like a kernel of truth in there, right? Sometimes it's coming through a filter. Maybe you've heard it said before, like hurt people. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it's coming through a filter of anger, and they're like, and you might get a review that's like, never talk to this person. They're the worst. They're going to destroy your life kind of review. Yeah. How do you practically find the kernel of truth in there and fight through? Because as much as I think it's great to say we all want to learn from stuff, a lot of people, and I think myself, I'd have to put in this category, we don't like hearing bad stuff about ourselves. Like, how do you fight through enough to hold people and just make them stay long enough to be like, there's something we can learn here. Sure, not everything in here is nice and accurate, but we got some ownership here. Is that what it's about? Is it about ownership?
It's 100% about ownership. I think that it's what could we have done to learn from that? How could we have learned from this mistake? What could we have done differently to learn that you ordered $6,000 worth of wrong the equipment? Do we need a second process for double checking our orders? And I don't remember what evolved from that one, but whatever it is, it's working now because we haven't made the same mistake again. Yeah. I think that I think it's one of these things that you have to be okay to know that mistakes will happen. Yeah. and
or
just
expect
have that,
them at least.
Yeah. And just have talk about reviews for a second. Okay.
Yeah. How do you handle a bad review?
Yeah. So it's difficult. And it's something I always, because I do take it personal. One,
yeah. I imagine the first read through, you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
Do you do the like Abraham Lincoln thing, write the response and then tear it up and put it in your desk drawer and then write another response?
There you go. Exactly. Dude, I have written many responses back, and the unfortunate thing about it is you get that one attaboy for how many jobs you do or whatever. And it's just, I think you take ownership. You can't really, you can't mix. You can't say, well, this, but you could have done this different. You really, the best response is, you know what? We really strive. We're sorry you had that experience. We strive to deal with all of our 1,000 customers a year this way. If you want to throw that in there or whatever, unfortunately we did fall short of the standards, and we are very unfortunate. Very sorry that you had that experience with us. And, we will learn from this. And you put that out there. Because if you go, I remember someone wrote a review of Better Business Bureau about us. They just had this horrible experience with us and blah, blah, blah. And I said, they wrote a book pretty much. I think
Thursday, April 4th.
No, it's exactly.
I called
at this time, at 2:02 PM. I said, unfortunately we were not able to meet said customers' needs. And unfortunately we fell short of our standards but we will learn from this.
Yeah.
Thank you and it was something short and sweet. Mm-hmm. And the thing was closed. It's just like, it's not that right. They want to see you take the high road, and that's what you have to do. No matter what you truly feel. Right. As long as you're able to add that and you are able to learn from it, obviously, like I said, so.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So Jerry, like a lot of people are probably, they have an idea or something that they think they're good at or something that they see an opportunity in. And they might be on the fence about, see what I did there, about taking a step and getting into becoming a small business owner or whatever. And a lot of people that we have talked to have said something similar, like I didn't really have a plan, or I didn't know that it would turn into this. It's not that they didn't have a plan. Even if the plan started out in one way, like in your case, I would like to be able to stay home with my kids and make enough money. And then it evolves. Do you feel like fences were your calling?
Not at all.
So was it just an opportunity that you seized?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
It's exactly correct. It was not, when I was a cop, I knew that I was meant to do some sort of leadership of some sort.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. I had no clue. I definitely had no clue to be building fences. That was not my love or passion. I didn't even know anything about them. To be honest with you, still don't know much. No, I'm joking. But no, it wasn't that way at all. I think for anybody who wants to, I think my biggest advice to somebody who wants to start their own business or something like that is, one, obviously, most important is make sure you pray about it. And this is one, you or you and your spouse are on the same page with this. Two, I think you have to be able to be a people person. Just because you are the best fence builder in the world, and I'm sure there's people that are better than me by far, but you have to be able to be a people person also. You have to, just because you're a good seamstress doesn't mean everybody's going to go to you. You've got to be a people person if you want to if you want to be your own, your own business. You want to have your own business. So if
you were going to start like taking some classes or whatever, start there.
That's exactly correct.
And I don't know if that's a class or if that's just like the art of like, listen when people talk to you, start conversations. I know for me, this podcast, so it's guys who do stuff, right? And the challenge that Josh and I, we're going to run a marathon. We're starting to challenge each other to do better stuff. And I've been thinking through, we had a guy on early, Neil Bailey, who was an adventurer. I called him that. And he was like, I guess I'm an adventurer. But that word got stuck in my head after talking with him. And I was remembering just at a party recently, I went to a party with my wife's work. And it was a Hawaiian theme, and it was a lot of fun. They had ladies at the door and whatever, and they had a whole pig, and it was fun.
Awesome.
And about halfway in after dinner, there's a hula dancer that comes out, right? And so now the music is going and the hula dancer's going, and then she's fire dancing, and it's crazy with like the spin and fire, crazy nut stuff. And then she's like, "Hey, does anybody join me in the dance floor? I'm going to teach you guys how to do the dance." And in my brain, like, this is the way I've been going for my whole life. I'm like, well, time to go. This is the part of the show where Joe and Lori leave. And we did. And I felt bad about it because I felt like that's not what an adventurer would do. An adventurer would have stayed and learned how to hula dance.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to catch those moments as at least I learned in hindsight with that. But I think what you're talking about is seizing the moment, seizing the opportunity.
It's exactly correct. You don't, I think, to kind of go off of what you just said, you never really know what that moment is.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, I could have learned some sweet hula moves that I'm sure would have benefited my marriage at some point down the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At least guys who do stuff.com.
Yeah.
I have video or something. I think just, capitalize every opportunity you have. If you see something, it's okay to step out of your comfort zone, learn from it.
Yeah.
You've got to.
Next time there's a hula dance class, I'm probably going to take
the
it.
next time that happens, you're going to be there. Yeah. I mean, again, guys, I never thought that I was going to take that step of quitting a career, of being a secure career, of being a police officer, to start my own business in the recession.
Yeah.
You gotta think
I'm gonna get into this housing thing that's pretty popular right now.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it was right at the beginning of the recession, and it's just like, and you don't think about it that way. I just kind of went on, dude, I just want to do $2,000 a month. But if you go back and look, and I think one other thing, Joe, and I think I kind of talked to you about this before when we were in my office. I said, you've got to remember your tithing. I mean, it's we talked about what happened. I don't mind sharing it as well either.
Yeah.
We had, I never knew really what to give. I always knew 10%, if
you're not familiar with the word tithe, is a word that refers to giving back to the church that you go to a percentage of your income.
That's exactly correct. And I wasn't necessarily tithing, but I was giving, and so I felt good about that. I mean, heck, I'm giving or whatever. And we had a thing at Hope Unleashed, where the church had challenged us to, really open our faith about what we were
getting ready to build a new building out in Apex.
Apex is exactly correct. And
which now is a very large new building in Apex. It's like a Costco size.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. We and me and my wife, we said, you know what, we're going to double our giving. And we went and we doubled our giving, and we didn't miss it at all. I was shocked, to be honest with you, that we didn't miss it, but we didn't miss it at all. And that year, so I don't remember how many years ago that was. It's probably 4 years ago. I'm guessing that 5 years ago when that happened.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
I'll never forget. We did X amount of dollars in sales with Big Jerry's that previous year. And when that's crazy. I mean, you sit back and think about this. Is the very next year after we started double our giving, we doubled our business. Where my growth was only like $100,000 a year more each year, we literally doubled our business, or doubled our sales the next year.
Wow.
And we have only continued to grow from there. I mean, it's just, and the thing was, and again, you never realize, kind of like you say, you never know what that moment is. You never know when to capture that moment, because maybe you don't even know it's a moment until afterwards. Like, I didn't realize it until about a year ago. I was going over all my P&Ls and stuff, and someone asked me, so what was the jump on that? Why? I was like, you know what? That's actually when I doubled my giving. And that's when it hit me. It only hit me about a year ago. That's what it was. I just thought, man, I'm just a great seller.
It's a really great year.
Seriously. And I mean, that had nothing to do with Home Depot. The Home Depot was just the last couple of years when that happened. So it was just, God's amazing. And just keep your faith. Again, you never know what that moment is. I think just constantly don't be afraid to take a chance, but also don't step out of your realm either. I mean, if you find a happy medium in both, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Great advice.
Yeah. So whatever it is that here's the thing that I bet is true. Like if there's something that's coming to your mind right now and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I wonder if that's it. It's probably it.
I agree.
It's probably it. And you might need to explore that a little bit more.
You fly drones, right?
I do.
You fly drones. So it's like, okay, you're comfortable flying drones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't mean you should go fly a helicopter today.
Right.
I mean, it's like, I think it's one of those things, and that's kind of a drastic thing, but just
you got to grow into it.
Yeah, it's exactly correct. I mean, that's not the opportunity to seize right there. That's not the hula dance thing right there. That's definitely not.
Yeah, you shouldn't throw prudence out the window. You didn't say I'm quitting and I'm doing nothing until I learn how to run a fence mogul company.
Exactly.
You did what was attainable at the time to you. I'm going to try and close X amount of fences, and I'm going to build them by myself and start running crews and start learning.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah. Good stuff.
He's got a lot. He's saying a lot today, isn't he?
Yeah, man. That's awesome. I would love to learn how to fly a drone. When I worked at Hope, we had a drone, but I didn't want to crash it and then feel bad about it. So I never flew it. I never took a lesson, but I wouldn't care if I crashed your drone, Josh.
No, I would care. I would care. Actually, I have a buddy. He's a detective. He's starting a drone unit for out in the county in the sheriff's department. But he was sending me a link.
That kind of makes sense. I saw in Cary I didn't see it, but my wife was telling me about it. A house got surrounded, and it looked like a scene out of a movie, which I assume you got to do every once in a while. And the cops are coming at it from all angles. And I did think that's why you need a drone unit.
Well, you're able to see heat. You're able to see body heat, scan body heat. So they're attaching these now and rescue missions as well. So we were flying drones recently, my friend and I, and he told me about this one called the Bugs 3 drone, which is under $100. It's even under $50, and it has a camera on it and transmits to your phone. So Bugs 3 drone. And that's how I learned, was in the house. I just had a little cheap plastic one, and I flew it. And I went to my buddy's house, Josh Hancock. Yeah. And I said, hey, check this out. And his kids came down, and I flew it right into his daughter's hair. That's awesome. And it got stuck in her hair. I felt so terrible.
The first time we bought a drone at Hope, when I was working there for the film team, we had gone to the NAB conference in Las Vegas. And it was like a closeout deal on the trade show floor. And we were like $300 drone. And it wasn't like one of these new smart drones where it's got all these sensors and it returns to your GPS location you started from. This was like, here's the remote, bro. Figure it out.
Do it.
And we were crashing that thing into the hallways all the time. We were constantly trying to repair it. We're flying into Bill Morrison's finger once. And like, he's our IT guy. Got him good. Crashing into the side of the building. They're not easy to fly. I don't know if they've gotten easier. Have they gotten easier?
They have gotten a lot easier. Okay. Yeah, they have just push button takeoff and GPS lock. And
this was not that. This was
sensors.
This was 2 knobs on like an RC controller, and it's like
it's the same, but there's manual overrides and lots more safety features. But
when we first bought the Phantom, which was the new one that came out, you had a button that you could press that would make it fly, hover, and change modes, and it was just the coolest thing you'd ever seen. This drone gets off the ground and changes shapes. Like, I'm ready to fly now, master. Where would you like to go?
Oh yeah, the Inspire. Yeah,
you know, actually, after talking to you the first time when learning you flew drones, I was like, I started doing research on drones. I was like, that could be the next way of doing estimates. Like going out to customers' houses, just fly it, blah, blah. Oh, you got to see this on my property. And I'm talking to them on a microphone. Oh, yeah, I see that. It's perfect.
Our drone is in your area now.
That's right. Next,
I mean, it's, but that's my.
Big Jerry, Big Brother fencing.
There you go. Exactly. I mean, that's how I'm always thinking. I'm always constantly thinking about ways of improving things. I learned that the 11 miles range kind of sort of is what but it only flew for like 27 minutes. I know all drones are different, but I mean, from what I gathered, that was kind of the most you would get out of a drone. I don't know. Maybe
11 miles is pretty far. I think military, they're flying 11, but nowadays it's like 1. And then this.
Oh, really?
Well, with the consumer type pro consumer, whatever drones.
You're probably dumbing those down, don't you think? I bet they're not putting them as good as they can be.
It's not a good idea to lose line of sight with your drone. So the idea and the regulations they really say, stay within sight. And that's, I think, is even a law.
See, that's the thing. That's where I mess up. I get the idea from somebody.
Like you're just in your dark basement.
Oh, dude, that's exactly correct.
I'm going.
I'd be like, so he's got a drone. drone. I'm going to buy one. I'm going to do my own research. And really, I should have just gone back to Josh and said, Josh, so what do you think about this? That would have been the smart thing instead of, thank God I didn't spend $3,000 on something. But that's just an example. I'm always, you can't get stuck in the times, kind of like church. You got to grow with times. You got to constantly think of ways of
evolving.
That's exactly correct. Yes. Thank you.
I like putting words in people's mouth.
You finally talked and you helped me out there in the process.
Evolving. First moment.
I just sit over here with the thesaurus and I'll be good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, Jerry, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Guys,
this was a lot of fun. I appreciated getting to hear a little bit about what you do. Hey, if you need a fence, how does somebody get a fence quote from you guys?
They can go to BigJerry'sFencing.com or they can call the 800 number, which I'm not 100% sure what it is off the top of my head.
But if you can find it on BigJerry's.com, BigJerry'sFencing.com.
BigJerry'sFencing.com. BigJerry'sFencing.com.
Thanks so much, Jerry. You guys have a great day. Seize the moment.
Adios.
I wish I could license that Eminem song. That feels like the right way to end this.
Yeah, you only got one life to live.
Mom spaghetti. That's the only line I know. I rap along to it, and that's the only line I got. Mom spaghetti.
We love making this stuff for you. You can help us out by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today?
Man, what a good episode.
Oh, wow. Another one in the can. And man, Big Jerry brought it.
Yeah, I really, I appreciate what he had to say about how to handle negative reviews, how to start small and not start with a crazy, unrealistic expectation for yourself, but to start with kind of like, and I've heard it said in other books, like a bare minimum or minimum viable product is a term that people use a lot, or figure out what your minimum audience is or your minimum customer base and start there and go after that.
I loved hearing his story about tithing, and when he doubled his tithing, he doubled their business, doubled the very next year.
That's pretty crazy.
He didn't realize that until what do you say, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's inspiring.
Just recently. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. What a being flexible kind of guy too, right? Really rolled with it into the higher calling that he was in, in life. And that's part of his story. And to see that story is inspiring.
If you live in the Triangle or certain areas of Florida, be sure to check out BigJerry'sFencing.com and get your quote. Get yourself a fence. I used Big Jerry's for my fence. And I didn't talk about this on the podcast, but the first day that they came out to my house, it was one guy. One guy comes out to the house and he's got the auger and he drills every hole. The next day he comes back and he puts in every fence post. And then the third day, he builds the whole fence, the gates and everything. Like it was totally 3 days, one dude, start to finish. It was inspiring.
That's awesome. Do you know what that guy's nickname is?
No.
Hole puncher. That's Hole Puncher. You met him, but he did everything else, right? So staged in a few days and it was done. That's impressive.
Amazing.
The one guy.
I think he had some help every once in a while, but the majority of the time he was just out there getting it done.
That's great. Did it rain at all when he was installing?
No, it was good weather.
Oh, what do they do when it rains?
I don't know.
I guess they keep building.
I thought you were setting up a joke. I was waiting for a punchline. What do they do when it rains?
Oh, this is the punch. There it is. There's the punchline. Thank you for watching, everyone.